Have you tried to create content to get a result, but you are not able to get that result? This episode, I'll show you how. This is episode 27 of Audacity to Lead.
Inspiring actionable content that helps you get focused, get started, and be impactful. This is Audacity to Lead.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Audacity to Lead. My name is Dayo Samuel and this is the podcast where I give you the courage and necessary insight to step out and lead with more influence. On this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you how to create content that gets results, and I'm going to be showing 6 steps to do that. But just before I get into this episode, I want to announce that Audacity to Lead is a year this June, and that actually creates some excitement for me because it means for one full year I've been running this show and I've seen a couple of things, I've experienced a couple of things, and for all of that, I'm thankful. I'm really, really thankful. In fact, that calls for a celebration. Let's give some shout out. Let's give some applause for Audacity to Lead. Yeah. Wow. Please give it up for Audacity to Lead for 1 year. Running for 1 year. This is quite exciting. Awesome. Now, the reason why I'm celebrating this is normally it is said that a podcast's life, or let me say, it is normally said that until a podcast can cross 7 episodes, the podcast is not really a podcast yet because the host has the choice to still step back and forget it. So for running 27 episodes with this one, actually I'm very excited. I'm quite happy. And the good part of it is, for this 1 year of running this show, I've got to meet a couple of new persons, made new friends, interacted with a number of persons, heard, read, and seen things. And for all of that, I'm excited. I'm glad. In fact, to celebrate this show being 1 year, I'm going to be celebrating along with my birthday on the 18th of this month, which is just some days away. And we are going to be doing that with a live show. And that live show is you are going to have the chance to ask me questions directly, even while I'm live on the show. You are going to have the chance of getting your voice heard, leaving your questions, and all of that. And we are going to do that together on the 18th of June this month by 6 p.m. in the evening, GMT +1, which is 6 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So I want to say thank you. In case you're listening for the first time, this is the podcast where I help you develop a compelling message, a marketable product, and a meaningful platform. My goal has always been to help you get focused, get started, and be impactful. And in that line today, I'm going to share with you 6 steps to creating content that gets results. Of course, I'm aware of the fact that you must have been creating content severally, whether through a broadcast message, whether through email newsletter, your podcast, your YouTube channel, your blog post, or even your social media content. Now, there's something that I've noticed with a lot of content being produced. Yes, we are in an information overload era where a number of persons, a number of content creators are trying to get attention. However, what I've noticed is most of the content that I personally read, which I know you are going to resonate with, is content that actually help me get specific results. For example, how to correct something on my keypad. That is the kind of result I'm looking for. I'm not looking for an inspiring content at that point. So if you can direct your content in these areas that I'm going to be sharing with you, you are going to discover that you are going to get more engagement. Your content is going to become more relevant, more meaningful to your audience. And that is why I'm sharing this. Well, before I go too much into the whole content, I want to let you know that there are different types of content that are being produced. In fact, some of them have purposes that are not clearly known. For example, there is the content that informs, there is the content that advises. Some write their content just to inspire, some write just to in advise, some write to suggest, some write to counsel. But what I've found looking around, in fact, for the last couple of years that I've been online, even offline, the content that actually catches a lot of attention is the content that instructs. And some of them may be in the form of how to, but many of them may not be in the form of how to, but they are definitely directed at instructing, giving you guide, giving you how to do something, showing you how to get something done, or developing something is actually more of result driven. And to be clear on that, I have to let you know that there are three kind of results every content you produce must have, or your content must be driven towards these three results. The first result is to be, to do, or to have. Now, let me explain. When you produce content, your goals should not just be to inform, to advise, to counsel, to suggest, to inspire. Your goal should be to help somebody be, to help somebody do, or to help somebody have. What does it mean for somebody to be? It means you are actually showing that person what that person can become. It is more of transformation. Now, when it comes to content that help somebody do, you are showing the person steps to take to actually get a specific result. When it comes to the content that is driven towards helping somebody have, you are showing that person or telling that person or guiding that person towards having something. And the more targeted your content is, the more the interaction, the engagement you will get. Because eventually, every content you produce is actually an experience you are creating for the person who's interacting with that content. So, the more deliberate you become with the content you are giving out, with the content you are churning out, the better. For example, when I started this podcast, I didn't really direct the content because I wasn't really experienced in that area. But over time, I began to notice my speaking engagements, working with my private clients, working with people, speaking on stage. And all of that, I began to realize that the more I get focused with the kind of result I want someone to have with listening to me, by reading what I've written, or of sorts, I discovered the more I began to get results, the more I began to get feedback. In fact, there's a particular post I wrote about why must you blog, and the post was just a thought in my mind. But when I was going to create it, I said I want to get people's feedback. That was my goal. So even the title shows that the feedback is needed. I think the headline, the lead, I'm going to go into details of all that, how to create all of that. Now, that is the reason why you should be more deliberate with whatever content you are giving out. And that is what I want to share with you this episode. So I want to say, glad that you're joining me. Well, once you're able to understand that there are three kinds of results: to be, to do, and to have, then the next thing will be what are the steps to take to actually get that person to that result. And that's why I want to share with you these 6 steps to take to create whatever content. And that your content can be in the form of written, spoken, audio, visual. Of course, you must be aware at this point that there are different types of learners. People learn from you in different ways. Some people will learn from you visually, some people will learn from you audibly, some people will learn from you by reading what you are writing. So, having the dexterity to create content to appeal to different learners actually is an advantage for you. And that reminds me, for this podcast, I'm going to be reducing the number of blog posts I write to focus more on the podcast. In fact, that's one of the things I'm going to talk about at the end of this episode. The kind of these things that are changing on this podcast. Well, let's go into the steps. The 6 steps to take to create content that get results. Number 1, begin with the result in mind. Begin with the result in mind. Now, what does it mean to begin with result in mind? It means before you create the content, know what you want the person who's going to engage with that content, what the person is going to get at the end. If the person is going to be, if the person is going to become, if the person is going to do something, or if the person is going to have something. For example, this episode right now, how to create content that gets results, you can see that first of all, my goal is actually to help you do, because I'm not just giving you steps and strategies alone. I'm helping you get the kind of results I have in mind with what I'm creating right now. In fact, step number 2 is for you to highlight the steps the person will have to go through to get that result. And how do I mean by that? For example, this show right now, you notice at this point, I'm already telling you step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. That's because the steps I'm giving you right now, we actually get results for you if you apply them. So not just that I want to inform you, I'm actually giving you the steps to take to do that. Now, let me get a little practical. If your goal is to help somebody set up, let me use a practical example that I used yesterday in the group I created for the attendance of One Day Podcast Launch Workshop, which held recently, with them how to create a podcast without having to do a lot of setup using Mixlr app. And one of the things I did was to give them steps. Step 1, create a Mixlr account. Step 2, create your broadcast program. Create this, create that. And I walked them through about 6 or 7 steps. The goal was that by the end of that reading, once somebody reads that post within the group, the person should be able to do something. And I was actually excited when after 30 minutes, somebody posted and said he had been fiddling with Mixlr app to see how we can use that to create this podcast. And then when he saw my post, he simply applied it and he showed us. In fact, he even sent me the audio that he recorded. And you can see that's more action driven. So that is the next thing you have to do, which is step number 2. Make sure you highlight the steps. Let the steps be very clear to the person that this is what to do. This is what to do to get this. Step number 3 for you now is create a title that captures the result. Create a title or a headline that captures the result. This episode has an example again, how to create content that gets result. Now, what is the result I'm trying to get to with this episode? It is for you to create content that gets results. What are the steps? 6 steps. And what is the headline? How to create content that gets results. Or I can even call it 6 steps to creating content that gets results. So you understand that. So you have to capture your result in the headline, in the title. In fact, some books, you might have found some books, they really don't appeal to you unless you read the I just remembered one book I saw, and the only way I could understand what the book was talking about was when I checked the back of the book. And that is quite funny because it means the author or the copyright of that book didn't really do his work to communicate the essence of the book. So your goal with the title should be to communicate the essence for which you have created that particular content. Now, I know this is going to revolutionize how you've been creating content, I know. But then let's get to the 4th step, which is for you to create a lead. Now, let me explain what a lead is. A lead is a statement or most often is a statement, especially when it comes to creating content like this. It's a statement that actually directs someone from the headline to the body of your content, to the main content itself. For example, how to create content that get results. The lead could be, have you been trying to create content and you're not getting engagement with the kind of results you've been creating? I'm about to show you exactly what to do to get results with your content. Now, that statement, that sentence I just made now, is a lead that is going to connect the headline, the title, the where I've captured the result, is going to lead any person who's interacting with this content I'm creating with the body of the content. So your lead, some people call it a promise or a hook, is actually something that connects the goal of the result with the body of the result, of the actions to take to actually get the result. So once you are able to do this, and it's actually very simple, all you need to do to create a great head, a great lead rather, is to actually look at, okay, this is the headline. What can I use to juxtapose this headline that will lead into the content? So in that case, you are not going to repeat exactly what is in the headline. You are going to find good. I remember one particular episode I did with Tara and I think what to do when starting over. And I remember one of the things Tara said in that episode. I mean, immediately you turn into that episode. I think that should be episode maybe 13 or 14. And she said, if you've been thinking of giving up, think about why you started. Now, that is not the title of the show, but you can see that's a great lead because the show is actually talking about how to start over or what to do when you're starting over. And the first statement you get to hear is, if you've been thinking of giving up, think about why you started. And that's a great lead. So that is what your lead should do. It should connect the headline, the title, the results that you have captured with the body of your content. So that is that. Number 5 step, which you should take, is to actually create the content, because just highlighting the steps doesn't really get to the result. It is only until you actually give them the main content that's when the results can be achieved. So number 5 is for you to create the content. So actually create the content. This is what to do. Yes, you have highlighted that in the steps you provided before. That is in step number 2. But here you're now fleshing it out. And now, so every other thing you intend to do, which is to maybe to counsel, to advise, to instruct, to guide, to suggest, these can be captured within the content in the form of steps. So that way, it gets both the advice, get the suggestions, get the advice, get the instructions, get the inspiration, the information you are providing, all packed together into one. So that is for that step. Number 6 step is for you to actually insert specific call or calls to action or call to actions. Well, I think it should be calls to action. Okay, so what you do at this point is actually to make sure your action step is leading to a specific doable, havable, or beable result. English. Nice. I don't know, maybe that exists anyway, but I think it applies to what I'm saying. So what I'm saying in essence is this: when you create content, for example, this particular show, this particular episode right now, I said 6 steps to creating content that get results, and you can see I've given you action steps. Now, what is the call to action for this episode? It's for you to actually sit down right now and then look through some of the content you have created and take them through this test that, okay, do I have a headline that captured the result? In fact, sometimes you might have to go and change the headline of your blog post or maybe your broadcast or your email subject line. You may have to go and change it so that it captures the main results for that particular content. And the more specific you're getting with this, you actually get to practice over time. It's not something you get in an instance. Some people may get it in an instance. In fact, I know some of you listening to me right now may get it in an instance, but somebody may not even get it in an instance. But it comes with practice. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. So I'm not going to discourage you right now that you are not creating content that actually gets results. And no, listening to this right now has given you some insight into how to create your next content. In fact, for your next content, I would like you to comment on this episode, audacitytolead.com/27, and you can actually leave a comment to your new post, to the post, to wherever, or your podcast, or whatever application you do with this episode. I want to see it. So please leave me a comment, audacitytolead.com/27, and I will read it. And of course, I will leave a comment on your own show, on your own podcast, on your own blog post, or your subject line. Your social media content. Wherever it is you apply this, I would like to hear from you. So please leave a comment at audacitytolead.com/27, and I'll take it up from there. And we are going to walk through this together. Once again, I want to say thank you for joining me on this episode of Audacity to Lead. I'm excited that you are here. If you're listening for the first time, I want to say thank you so much for joining me. And if you've been an all-time listener, I want to say thank you for tuning in again. Well, I've been away for some time because I was trying to reproduce myself in others, and I'm glad that within the space of the last 30 days, I've been able to reproduce 13 different podcasters. In fact, we had a workshop last Saturday, just some days ago, on the 30th of May, one-day podcast launch workshop, and I'm excited to see 13 people commit their time, their attention, their money to learning from me, and I'm excited. I also want to say thank you to my private clients who have been working with one-on-one to create their own shows, to get their blog up and running, to help them spread their message, spread their passion, bringing in visibility to their business. I would say thank you so much for all of you. You have been the reason why I do what I do, and I'm thankful to God for bringing you my way. So this is it for this episode. I hope to see you on the next episode. Once again, on the 18th of June this month, which is just some days away, I'm going to be doing a live show for Audacity to Lead, just for 50 minutes or thereabout, and we are going to be interacting on a live program. You can get all the details for that at audacitytolead.com/27. In fact, you won't even need to sign up for the show. You can just tune in directly, whether from Facebook, from Twitter, and you can be a part of it. And of course, if you found this episode useful, you can please share this with your friend. I really appreciate that. This brings to mind a new friend I just made, or a couple of new friends I just made. I'm going to mention two of them. In fact, one specifically has a show called The Joko Tade Show. I want to give this as a shout out to her. If you are a woman and you are being overwhelmed by creating a podcast, I'm proud to say Vivian Joko Tade is producing her own show, and that's a good show to tune into. You can get that at jokotade.com. Say big up to Joko Tade Vivian. Thank you so much for connecting. I also want to say thank you to Johnson Okore for connecting. It's been a wonderful time speaking with you and interacting with you. I want to say thank you to you once again for listening. My thank you is much, right? That's because I just like to be grateful, and that may be something you probably might learn from me over time. Maybe one day I'm going to talk about that in a future episode. Well, this is where I would like to end this episode of Audacity to Lead. I want to say thank you once again for joining me. It's been fun all the way. So I look forward to seeing you soon. I look forward to having you back on the show on the next episode. So thank you.